Dana Jacobs is a digital advertising producer at the Tulsa advertising agency Acrobat Ant. In her interview, Dana tells you how she built a career in a field that uses a combination of business and artistic skills and is always interesting because digital media is constantly changing. So you are always challenged and learning something new every day.
Just tell me a little bit about how you grew up and the people that influenced your life when you were younger before you decided on a career.
Okay. I was born and raised here in Tulsa. Went to Montecasino and then Cassia Hall. My sister was probably the biggest influence. She's almost 2 years older than me. And after we got out of the, little sister fighting stage and everything, I then pretty much wanted to do anything that she was doing, whether it was sports. We both played 4 sports, and at the same time, to the probably chagrin of my parents. But yeah, so we did pretty much everything the same, bought the same clothes, everything. So she was probably a big influence in my life, and still is.
So you went to Montecasino. So what were the teachers? Did the teachers influence you and move you into design that you're in?
Actually, no, when I was in high school, and I was always more drawn towards math and sciences. So I actually thought I was going to be a pharmacist my senior year of high school. So I didn't really get into the creative track until college.
So where'd you go to college?
Southern Methodist University in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
I played volleyball there on scholarship, and double majored in accounting and advertising. So I was still kind of sticking with the math, and then just explored advertising and fell in love with it.
Well, how did you get experience in advertising that you found that you found it was interesting to you?
Just the intro course really in college really interested me. And I was actually not able to do any internships or anything during college because of volleyball. So it was kind of hard coming out of college after that. I actually found an internship and found 2 actually that I was doing at the same time. And so that was kind of my only experience, and then I got my first job after that. So.
Well, what companies did you do your internships with?
One was the MS Society. I was pretty much event planning and then marketing those events, obviously. And then the other was a very small company. I literally can't even remember the name of it right now. But it was just a one-man show, and she had freelancers. But it was basically just a marketing, advertising company, and more probably consulting than anything. And she just had a few clients in the Tulsa area, and so I was just helping manage those.
And then what did you do after that?
Then I got a job offer from Hub International CFR. It's an insurance company. And there I was their marketing coordinator, so I was doing promotional flyers and brochures and simple graphic design, that kind of thing. So I got to learn the Adobe Creative Suite there, which was awesome.
Is that important to somebody that wants to be a graphic designer?
Very, very, yes. In school, I actually took the business track of advertising, so I didn't even get to touch any of that software or learn anything about it while I was in school, because I was doing the advertising research, account management, consumer behavior, that kind of thing. So to be able to learn that on the job was, it just added to my skill set, and it's paid off because I use it every day here. So
that's really interesting. So if somebody was interested in design or advertising, what kind of a personality would they have? What sorts of things do you do every day that you think would interest somebody like that?
For me personally, it's very right brain and left brain, because I'm creating images and writing copy, but then I'm also going back and analyzing, how well these posts performed, how well those posts performed, how well the ads performed, and then, budgeting for the campaigns themselves. So, It's really a mix.
So it's more than just design. You're actually doing the business side of it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think everybody sees the internet and all the web pages, and you get advertising that shows up on your Facebook feeds and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the designs are really creative. It must be fun to go through and use your imagination to
Mm-hmm.
develop some of these things.
Yeah, and a lot of what I do is I like to keep things consistent to, the print ad that you would get in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of has that same look, and so that would trigger in your mind like, oh yeah, I got this in the mail. So a lot of mine is resizing for
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and Twitter and things like that, but you also have to get creative in that resizing because, something you get in the mail is going to be 8.5 by 11 or, whatever
Mm-hmm.
size, but Facebook, it's, a rectangle completely the different way. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of fun to repurpose things and make them look similar, but, they're also different just by the size.
Mm-hmm. So when you work with your clients and you try to decide what medium to use, I mean, how do you go about doing the analytics on that? I've always been curious as to why people decided they would advertise, on the internet versus television or radio or billboards or anything. How do you go through and analyze that?
I don't have a lot to do with, the radio
Mm-hmm.
and the print ads and things like that. But as far as the platforms,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's kind of common sense, like if you think of an insurance company, for example,
Okay.
we were on Facebook just so we could have a presence, more so for recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
just like things that were going on in the company, but, we're not trying to sell anyone insurance on Facebook because
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to buy insurance on Facebook.
Sure.
But, your LinkedIn, that'd be a good place. So it kind of just depends on the different business. Like we have a pizza restaurant that we do everything for.
Mm-hmm.
And so for social media, we're on every platform pretty much. Just because it's, it's a light, easy
Mm-hmm.
business and people are always thinking about food, so.
Well, talk about the platforms because I'm an older guy and I know about Facebook and I know about LinkedIn, but I see some of these new ones coming out like Instagram and Snapchat and things like that. How are those evolving? I mean, what people use those other platforms and tend to be younger on certain versus certain demography that uses different platforms.
I'd say Snapchat's definitely the youngest user base, probably mostly teenagers. From there, probably Instagram, I would say. It's a little bit older, the main users. And then I would stack Twitter there, and then probably Facebook is the highest demographic.
So you can actually make ads for all those platforms, or you really can. Okay. Yeah, I was always curious with Snapchat because I don't think it stays on there very long.
Yeah.
How do you advertise on Snapchat when that disappears in 15 seconds or something?
Mm-hmm. They actually have ad spots that run. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with how the stories work, but
No.
So you load up an image or a video, and it disappears after 24 hours.
Is that a time frame?
Mm-hmm. And so as people are going through viewing these stories, you can actually place ads within stories. So
okay.
once you, if I'm looking at your story, then it finishes and then an ad will run and then another story will pop up, like another one of my friends.
Okay. So from the commercial side, you've got the ability to keep it on and move it through. It wouldn't be like posting on a Facebook feed and people coming over a week or two to come see it.
And you can also do that as well, but then again, it disappears after 24 hours. So that would be good for something, exclusive that you would want people to act fast on.
Okay. That's really interesting. Well, so if somebody was in high school, if you said a high school student that was artistic and liked the design and is familiar with the internet, what classes should they be taking in high school to prepare themselves for this?
Probably art, obviously. If they're artistic, they're going to take art. But I'd say don't shy away from math. Because even our designers use math, rule of thirds, and there's all these different just design rules that still involve math, and business if you have it in high school. We didn't have that in high school, but.
So what if for somebody here in Tulsa, do the tech schools and the community colleges have decent programs? Are you aware of any of the things that they're doing here in town?
I've actually looked into not so much the tech schools, but just TCC. Offers graphic design, and I mean, the principles are the same anywhere you learn them. So, I mean,
yeah, Tulsa Community College is a real asset for this community because it's free for kids that get in it within, I think it's 12 months after they graduate from high school. They can go there and take those classes for free. That's really great.
That is.
So if you've gone in and you've gotten your classes, what do you do next to go out and get a job? Is it an internship first? Is that a valuable thing before you apply for a job? Or how do you go out and navigate so you get into a career where you get paid?
I would say definitely internship. Like I said earlier, I didn't have the opportunity, and it was so much harder for me, I felt, to find something after, because then I even ended up having to do the internship after. So if you can do it while you're still in college, then I think it's definitely beneficial, because they want you to just have some baseline experience. And I had,
you
none.
had none.
I was like, I would try to show projects that were relevant, but it's still, it wasn't performed in the real world, so it's hard to actually trust someone.
Well, how did you come to Acrobat Ant?
My last position at Tulsa Federal Credit Union was actually eliminated. They just no longer felt the need. They didn't feel that they were in a good position with the tools that they had, because I was doing a lot of analytics, but it was a bank, so there's only so much information that you can collect accurately at a bank, sadly. So it was just really tough for me to actually do what they wanted me to do. So then I took my time and looked around. I knew I always wanted to be in the advertising world, so I had the luxury of being able to wait and find something that I really wanted because of my husband. But I came in for an informational interview because they actually weren't hiring at the time, and then got to know David Downing, who's one of the owners, and he kind of kept me in his back pocket and said that if anything opened up, he'd let me know. And then probably about, I think it was not even 2 weeks later, this position opened up, and he immediately thought of me. And
well, that's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
So what do you think the future is for this kind of advertising on the internet? I mean, is it going to you think it'll replace most of the TV and radio ads? Is it going to be, continue to grow and be a major factor?
I think it'll definitely continue. TV's not going away. Commercials aren't going away because, even your Hulu and your Netflix, or not Netflix, excuse me, but Hulu, still has commercials, and they've added commercials back in, and all those different platforms still have commercials. Print, I don't think is going away either. But social media itself, I think, is just going to evolve. Every other day, these platforms are getting new features, and Twitter just expanded to 280 characters. So there's just always room for growth and change, and it's just an exciting place to be in.
That's great. That really is. So what do you do every day, and like, what's a typical day for you as far as meeting with people and doing the design work and the kinds of people you interact with?
I don't really know if there is a typical day in my life, but as far as people,
is it clients a lot, or is it more working with the people here that are developing the advertising? I mean, are you more client based, or are you more working with the staff here at Acrobat Ant? Or?
Probably more the staff here. A lot of my clients are actually out of town. We have a hospital in Missouri, a bank in Oklahoma City, and Norman.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah.
So we're, countrywide. We have a hospital in, Tennessee. So obviously we're not seeing those clients every day, and there's not really a need to talk every day. But yeah, probably more internal. I talk to my proofreader a lot. She sits right next to me. So I run pretty much everything by her. Whoever's the client lead. So basically, whoever's in charge of that client, that's who you're turning things into and getting them approved. And so it's probably a lot more internal than external.
Okay.
For me personally.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. It really is. It really is. So what do you see the future being for this sort of a position? I mean, do you think, if you're in this kind of a position, I would assume the technology is changing all the time. Are you going to classes all the time, or going to particular training to keep up with all that? I mean, if somebody gets into this, can they expect to have to go on and continually learn and go through programs?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's always changing. So I'm reading articles, attending webinars, online classes, anything I can pretty much get my hands on. Just being on the platforms themselves also, just for inspiration on how to use the new features and things like that. So, it's definitely, you're going to still be learning for sure, and you have to have the discipline to continue to learn. But it's fun, because it just allows you to be more creative as more and more things come about.
Yeah, that's what I've found talking to a lot of people, that the technologies are just changing so fast. It's once you graduate from school and you start a position, you're still just going into a continual learning process your whole career. It just never stops, and I don't know that some people realize that's your education never ends, even once you get in the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very interesting. Okay, well, anything else tips you might want to give to somebody that was in high school and wanted to look at this as a career? That they should be doing, or people they could be talking to, or companies maybe is there a chance to come to advertising company and work as an intern even in high school?
I'm not sure about high school. Definitely college. Internships for sure. We actually just had an intern during the spring. But yeah, if it's a field you're interested in, just reach out. That's all I did, because you never know. Like I said, I came in for an informational interview and ended up with a job 2 weeks later. So,
it's important to not be afraid to pick up the phone or knock on a door to get out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I've seen with most people. They always say that a lot of their success was because they were able to go out and knock on a door or talk to somebody. And did you have any particular mentors or anything along the way, people in the business that stood out, that told you anything that stood out to you as
my professor in college actually was probably my biggest mentor. We were a lot alike, which I've had her for a full year, semester back to back. And she just literally opened my eyes to so many things in advertising and just the industry itself.
Well, give me some examples of that. What sorts of things did you talk about with her?
Even just little things, like every day she would make us do these things called dogs, and they were called daily observational grist.
Okay.
And it sounds made up, but it's literally just observing things in the everyday world. Like, say, everyone, when you see a cop, whether you're speeding or not, you're probably going to slow down just because, it's instinct. Like, oh, am I doing something wrong?
Right.
So those are the things that we'd observe, and it wasn't always, something you could use in, an ad or copy you're writing, but it just helps you to observe those everyday things to help you be more creative, and, maybe one day you will be able to use that in an ad. Like, oh, I remember this, from...
So did you write those down, or how did you...
Yeah, I actually still have pictures of all the ones I've ever written, and I just still think about it day to day, like, oh, a lot of people do this, just...
Kind of like the way a writer has a notebook or an artist has a sketch pad or something, the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. That's a great idea. It really is.
I think she might have coined the term herself, but...
Anybody else that stands out, or any employer, or anybody at work, or?
I don't know if it's one specific person, but here, everyone's just so creative and really just pushes me to be more creative than I ever thought I could be or ever thought I wanted to be. Because, so now I'm, writing copy, creating ads and images and everything, but I'm also incorporating my own photography now.
Oh, okay.
And that's been really fun. But, starting off, I never thought I would be taking pictures of pizza in my own living room, but but it's been really fun. And
So how did you get involved? Did you take photography? And
I actually took it in high school, and then, I've always been interested in it, but never had a good camera or anything besides, an iPhone. But my husband actually bought me a camera last Christmas, and I've just been, playing around with it and practicing and gotten to the point where I'm comfortable using it in client posts, so that's been really fun.
Oh, I bet that would be. I always like to take pictures too. I never could draw very well, but a camera, you could still get something nice out of that.
Yeah,
Tend
too.
to be a little creative. So that's fun. That's real fun. Okay. Well, just to kind of end this, if somebody's really interested in doing this and really wants to do this, there really is, it seems like even in Tulsa, there's really a lot of opportunity for it if you're willing to go out and work for it. You've got a free place to go to get some training at Tulsa Community College, and if you take some initiative, it looks like you can go out and get some internships and things around town, and I'm assuming that's going to be way in Oklahoma City or some of the other big areas. Are there any particular parts of the country where this where what you're doing tends to be more in demand than others? Is it a regional thing, or is it sort of an urban versus a smaller town?
I would say it's easier to get this kind of job in a bigger market. So, you're Dallas, obviously. But even here, there's, I don't know exactly how many agencies there are here, but there's quite a few and bigger ones, and they're always going to need someone like this. So it's kind of a timing issue, obviously, but definitely bigger cities would be easier if you're willing to move, but...
And that's for advertising agencies. How about companies? What kind of companies? You said you worked for one company that had somebody in-house that handled their own advertising. Is that fairly common? Or?
Yeah, it's definitely more and more common as businesses are seeing the need for social presence and how important managing that social presence is, rather than, just creating a Facebook and letting it sit, or even Yelp, having someone to manage those reviews. And it's just more and more important because so many people are going to social media platforms first for customer service rather than picking up the phone or going in the store.
Yeah, people don't use the Yellow Pages much anymore, do they? I don't see those books used to be huge, and they've gotten down to where they're pretty small. That's interesting. Yeah, I actually know somebody who works for an air conditioning company here in town that's pretty big, and that's all she does is kind of what you're talking about, just for that one company, which would surprise me that they would want to do that. But the advertising is real important for that business, and they develop somebody in-house.
Yeah, from the outside, you kind of think, how could Facebook be a full-time job, But it really, there's planning, there's campaigns involved, and like I said, budgeting and writing the content, and then managing all of that on top of it. So it really adds up.
So you're basically running your own little business within the company, your own little advertising agency.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you got two really good options. You can do like you're doing here, working for an advertising agency, or you can build your own small operation within a company.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really great.
And in my world, I don't do everything for every client. It ranges from the pizza restaurant that we have. I do everything. I monitor it and respond to every angry complaint that you see, and it goes down to, a bank where I'm just running ads for them, or I'm just writing copy. So it's kind of all over the place. Whereas you're saying, if you work for just one business specifically, you're going to be doing all of it. So
now you said something that really I never thought about before. In the social media world, you get kind of instant responses, don't you? You'll get either somebody that'll give you an attaboy that you did a good job, or you'll get complaints and things. How do you handle that? How do you respond to those people when they...
Patiently.
Patiently?
For me, it's actually hard because I hate confrontation. I'm very easygoing and I hate confrontation. So even with the screen in front of me to hide behind, it's difficult. But yeah, I mean, you just have to act like an extension of the brand. So even though I don't actually work for that restaurant, I just respond as they would if you would call in.
So you're doing that on the media. So so somebody puts a comment in that the pizza wasn't well cooked or something like that, or the service wasn't good. So you'll actually respond to them on the social media. Okay.
And it can be different for any client, but that specifically... I have sort of my canned response that I personalize to each complaint, but then we send them to an online form, so then the company can actually handle it from there. But I, like I said, act as an extension of the brand and kind of make it seamless.
Okay. So you're responding both to the customer and you're also giving feedback to the business so they can do better and know what they're doing good or do better on the things that they don't.
Yep.
So there's a lot of communication to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first came in and started talking to you, I thought it was more just design and drawing and placing the ads and putting the ads together, but I can see where you've got a lot more interaction than that. That's great. That really is. It really is. Well, I appreciate it. I think you've got a real interesting career. I really do.
I enjoy it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look at YPNG's virtual classroom schedules for opportunities to talk directly to YPNG members like Dana. You can also do your own interviews of people in careers that interest you, and we will post it to our site and share it with other students.